What is a TikTok influencer?
An influencer is anyone who has a dedicated following and is creating content that resonates with a specific audience. Now, influence is not just about the follow account, it's your ability to drive actions such as engagement, shares, sales, so on and so forth. TikTok has reached over a billion active monthly users in 2023, and it continues to grow, making it a really hot platform for creators to become influencers. And so, as an influencer myself, we're going to talk about the different stages and different tiers of being an influencer. Uh, in my case, in the beginning, when I got started, I didn't know my niche, and so I tried everything. I was making content about guitar, chess, some educational content, and my engagement at the time was high, but the direction in which I was going to was scattered. And this is the first tier of influencers, which we call nano influencers, whenever you have between 1,000 to 10,000 followers. And the characteristic of these influencers is that they are just starting out. They are testing various content formats, whether it's dancing, comedy, lifestyle, or how-to videos. And typically at this stage, you have very high engagement rate, could be 10 to 20% or even more. That is only because your audience is made up of mostly close friends, family, or niche enthusiasts. Like I said, when I had just about 5,000 followers, I was experimenting with funny skits, vlogs, and I even did some educational content. I had no idea what would stick really, so I tried it all. And my engagement rate was crazy high, sometimes over 20%, but that's only because my audience felt that they were personally connected with me. Now, advantages for brands looking to collaborate with influencers when they look at the nano, you are collaborating with individuals who have an authentic voice, that have a deep personal connection with their audience, and it also tends to be more budget friendly if you're looking at partnership opportunities. Then you move up to the next tier, which is what we called micro influencers. So this is the range from 10,000 to 100,000 followers. The characteristic of these influencers is that you begin to see a clear pattern into what content works for them. And so you start to narrow down into maybe 2 or 3 content themes. Engagement rates are still relatively high, often 7 to 15%, but it might dip slightly as the audience grows. Myself, when I hit about 50,000 followers, I started to notice that tech-related videos were outperforming everything else. And that's when I really honed in on that niche, which helped me scale even faster. On a brand's point of view, the advantage of working with micro influencers is that they have niche expertise, they have relatively high engagement, and they are still quite cost effective. Myself, as I found my niche and doubled down on what worked, my follow account just skyrocketed and the engagement rates slightly plateaued, but it was just normalized, quote unquote. Go to the next step, which is more so macro influencers. This is 100K to a million followers. At this point, you're more established, you're likely recognized in the niche or maybe multiple niches. Your engagement rate typically ranges from 5 to 10% at this stage, and the audience becomes more widespread. Generally, the content style, though, becomes more consistent, and you're known to do one thing, or you kind of blew up for doing something specific. Myself, at about 300,000 followers, I became the guy that reviewed websites and app. People started to refer to my content style, and I noticed that many brands also started to reach out to me at this point. For brands looking to work with macro influencers, the advantage is that these individuals have a much larger reach. You can push out your message to hundreds of thousands of people. And generally, because the influencer blew up, they know how to make really good content. It's polished and they have something that they already know works for them. The audience's trust is still relatively strong, although it tends to be less intimate than with a nano or a micro influencers. And last but not least, you then have what we call mega influencers. So this is anyone who has above a million followers. These people have extremely high reach and visibility. The engagement rate, although, tends to drop to 2 to 5%, and even lower due to just the sheer size and the diversity of their audience. Often, these are individuals that are recognized beyond just their original platform, and they might be known on mainstream media or other social media platforms. When I hit about 3 million followers, I got known as the underrated website guy, and my engagement rate, plateaued at about 4%. It's much harder to maintain a high engagement rate because the reach is just massive. For brands, mega influencers can drive huge exposure and massive awareness in a very short amount of time. Once you have proven that influencer marketing does well for you and you want to have social proof through association. So there's pros and cons to everything here, but I think what's interesting is that through this story, you can tell that the more people you have, the less personal each interaction becomes. The bigger you get, the more people feel like they're part of a crowd, not an inner circle. The second interesting aspect of growing as an influencer is that over time, your content becomes more niche as you establish your brand, what people like, what resonates with them, and you just narrow down into one format. Each tier has its benefits and its challenges. Higher follow counts means bigger reach, but oftentimes lower engagement rates, and smaller followings just means more loyal fans.